What's up, everybody? This is Joseph Nelson, and this is my YouTube channel, Next Home Network PDF. If this is your first time to my channel, and you want to know everything about living, eating, sleeping, playing, and all the varied lifestyles that are available to you in the Portland, Vancouver area, make sure you tap the subscribe button and hit the little bell so you will be reminded every time I make a new video. I get so many people calling who are relocating to the area, and I absolutely love it. If you are thinking about moving or relocating to the area, or just need some help to decide where to live, make sure you call me, or text me, or email me, or even send me that carrier pigeon. However you want to get a hold of me, just know that I have your back when moving to the Portland and Vancouver greater areas. In this video, I'm going to share everything you need to know about the cost of living in the Portland, Vancouver area. I can't compare the Portland area to where you live, but after watching this video, you will be armed with all the information that you need to make a great comparison of your own situation. And it all starts right. First, I want to give a disclaimer. I am not a CPA. The information that I'm going to provide is based on my experience and firsthand knowledge. Before making any financial decisions, make sure to consult your CPA. First, let's look at the big umbrella. It's hard to talk about Portland without talking about Vancouver. They are one big metropolitan area, simply separated by a body of water, the Columbia River. But that body of water divides the metropolitan area into two states. I'm going to say overall, the cost of living in Southwest Washington is lower than the cost of living in Portland. Travel time to Portland International Airport, PDX, tends to be really short from Vancouver. You can get to the airport from most areas in Vancouver in about 15 minutes. The Portland suburbs, especially to the south, since the airport is right on the state line between Oregon and Washington, the travel time there tends to be a lot longer because of the traffic snarls that typically exist. Okay, let's talk about taxes. Typically, unincorporated areas in the counties tend to have lower taxes than incorporated cities because many of the unincorporated counties lack police services, city services. I'm not saying the counties don't have police service, but they tend to be through the sheriff's department, through the county. Washington, by law, can reassess property taxes once a year, up to 100% of real market value. And that value is what the county decides it's worth. The tax rate cannot exceed 1%. Most counties have pushed their tax rate right up against that 1% threshold. And so really what determines property tax rate is the value that they place on your home. Oregon is limited to a 3% increase in your property taxes per year, but this limit does not include voter-approved additions such as school bonds, library bonds, fire bonds, etc. Those would go on top of the 3% threshold. Oregon typically does not use the transfer of property as a trigger to revalue your property. The triggers include building a new home. They're going to come in and assess it at full current market value. Making major permitted improvements in the home, adding on bedrooms, etc. They're not only going to come in and inspect the work, but they're also going to assess the improved value of the home to current market rate. New homes are assessed automatically at 100% of market rate because they can. Older homes tend to be below true market value. They are only able to raise the rates 3% a year, and we all know that market values have been going up 10 to 15 to 20% a year. There is a lag between the accumulative 3% a year and the 10 to 15 to 20% a year the properties are actually going up in value. And that's good. The Portland metropolitan area is comprised of 3 counties. Multnomah, which is primarily Portland. It also includes other cities such as Gresham. Washington County on the west side, which is Beaverton, Hillsborough, Sherwood, etc. And Clackamas County, Happy Valley, Milwaukee, Oregon City. Clackamas County taxes are the least expensive in the Tri-County area. This is especially true in the unincorporated areas of the county which are not cities. But there are exceptions. Happy Valley, West Lynn, Lake Oswego, for instance, the taxes are quite high. These communities have a low affordability index, but these high taxes have benefits. The schools are gold standard. They have local municipal police and government, and this brings a lot of services that would otherwise not be available in the unincorporated areas. Clark County in Washington, just over the river, is comparable to Clackamas County in affordability of property taxes and homes. But there are exceptions in Clark County as well. Camas, taxes are higher, and in Ridgefield, taxes are higher. Also, Salmon Creek, taxes are higher. But these are more exclusive areas, and for the most part have their own city government, and these places all have awesome schools. And that doesn't come for free. Okay, let's talk about other cost comparisons. Gas tends to be slightly less expensive in Washington and Oregon because in Washington they allow self-service, and in Oregon they do not. If you're willing to use your Gas Buddy app, you can find gas prices right now at the time that this video is being made for regular gas, $2.12 a gallon, and it goes up, I don't know how far, over $3 a gallon, depending on the area. Utility costs across the region are fairly level similar. There are some region-wide utility companies. The electric rates tend to be fairly consistent across the region. The big thing that's going to affect your overall utility costs is whether or not the home you're purchasing is serviced by natural gas. Natural gas is the least expensive way to heat your home, and if you're all electric, you're going to be more expensive by hundreds of dollars a month than if you're heating with gas. Okay, let's talk about income and sales taxes. Washington State has sales taxes. When you go to the grocery store, you're not taxed on food staples, but when you buy soda pop or candy bars or potato chips, they're going to charge tax on those. There's no additional tax on gas from what the pump price says because that tax is figured into the price per gallon already. Washington does tax you on your meal if you go out to dinner. Many people who live in Washington do a lot of their shopping in Oregon to avoid sales tax. If you go to Home Depot to buy some appliances or other purchases that are really hundreds of dollars, you have the potential to save about 7%, which is the tax rate in Washington. However, if you buy a vehicle in Oregon and you live in Washington and you go to register it, you are going to get taxed on that vehicle based on its value. So there's no get around buying a vehicle in Oregon and registering it in Washington and getting around the 7% tax. And 7% of $30,000 is $2,100. It's a fair amount of money. Washington, vehicle registration is also substantially higher in Washington than it is in Oregon. But there's no state income tax in Washington, and this includes on your Social Security benefits. Living in one state and working in the other gets a little sticky. If you live in Washington and work in Oregon, you're going to pay Oregon income taxes. It also complicates filing your taxes. In an ideal world, me being self-employed, I would live and work in Washington because my taxes would be lower. The problem is I'm licensed in Oregon and Washington, and so I have income in both states. So there's no real clean answer. Grocery prices tend to be pretty consistent throughout the region, and I'm guessing the grocery prices are similar to where you live, unless you live in Hawaii where they're outrageously expensive. I would bet that your grocery budget would not be any different here than where you're currently living. Insurance rates, pretty much the same in both states. Really, the largest impact on the cost of living, whether it's Oregon or Washington, is going to be based on the amount of money you spend on your home, because that's going to affect taxes, insurance, and interest costs. The expensive areas of town tend to have better education for the kids. And even if you don't have kids, the resale value in these areas tends to be really good. Less expensive areas are less desirable generally. They're in higher crime areas. The neighborhoods are older and lack revitalization. But there are exceptions. There are some very affordable neighborhoods that are actually very desirable, with the exception to possibly the quality of schools. The most expensive areas include Happy Valley, West Lynn, Lake Oswego, Wilsonville, Camas, Ridgefield. These areas all have awesomely rated schools, but there are families that will not be able to afford to buy the size of home that they need in these communities. But even in the more desirable communities, there are somewhat more modestly priced homes, but they're going to be older and smaller. But if, for instance, if you want to live in Lake Oswego, the gold standard for the region for schools, we could find you a home there if you are willing to compromise on some of your criteria. There are also more exclusive areas in almost all regions. In Portland, Laurelhurst, the Alameda Ridge, the West Hills, Dunthorpe are some of the more exclusive areas within the city of Portland. The costs in these neighborhoods are very high, property values are very high, and tax being in Multnomah County, Portland, are going to be the highest in the region. Now let's talk about the market here. Our median home price right now is $425,000. If you break this down by neighborhood, some are higher, some are lower. But compare this to Seattle at $700,000 or the Bay Area at $995,000. This makes Portland comparatively, I hate to say this, but it makes Portland a bargain. This is one factor that points towards our prices continuing to go up. In the middle between Seattle and San Francisco, Portland is the least expensive place to live. The affordability index is better in Portland. When you compare wages to the median home price, Portland wins. We are not building enough homes to support the number of people moving here. But that being said, there are good options for new construction. But these are going to be in areas probably not in Portland. There really isn't much land left in the city limits of Portland, and all the new construction, it tends to be infill. There's onesie twosies being built when they tear down a house, and there really is no new housing developments per se in the city of Portland. But much of the outlying communities have lots of land left. And notably in Clark County, Washington, the Vancouver area has tons of land available. We should see a lot of new construction ramping up in Clark County. I could do another whole video on new construction, so stay tuned, I'll do that. The inventory in our region is extremely low. It's the lowest I've ever seen it. 3 to 4 months is considered a balanced market. 5 months and more is considered to be a buyer's market. Anything less than 3 months is a seller's market. We currently are at 1.1 months of inventory. What this means is, if we didn't take one more listing, all of our current inventory would be gone in 1.1 months. Now that's never going to happen, but that's how we gauge inventory here. Market time on property. If you are at the median home price, $425 or less, it can be a rodeo. Multiple offers. Homes selling for more than asking price. Market time is measured in days, sometimes 1 day. Once you get to about the $600,000 price point, things start easing up a bit. And when you get over $1 million, it's a pretty relaxed market. It is a tough flippers market right now. Prices that the homes are selling for, even the fixers, are beyond the profit that a contractor can realize when they add up the purchase price, the amount of money it's going to take to get it to a marketable state and sell it. They can't make any money. So most of the fixers are being bought by individuals to buy, fix, and hold. Portland is very aggressive about taking an existing lot with a home on it and allowing people to build what's called an ADU, an additional dwelling unit. And these are usually more studio-sized or, 1-bedroom cottages. But Portland is allowing this on standard residential size lots because they have no more land to build houses on. There's also a new Oregon law which requires that any city with a 10,000 person population or more to be able to build multifamily or additional homes in areas where they have never been zoned to do so. You take a upscale neighborhood that has all single family homes. When this new law comes into full force, there will be no restrictions on building duplexes or apartment houses in pretty much any neighborhood in a town with more than 10,000 people. It is my assessment that home prices will continue to go up. They won't level off until interest rates climb. Even then, I believe that we're going to see the prices stabilize and not decline. You know, when moving to the Portland, Vancouver area, I can really help you to identify the areas that will accommodate your lifestyle and your budget. In this seller's market, how we structure offers makes a big impact. I have strategies for success that have proven to improve your odds of being successful when we make an offer. I have some great strategies for you folks who still have a home that you need to sell. There are a lot of great, unique financing strategies that allow you to buy your next home before you sell your old one. And it may not be as expensive as you might think. Just a few stats. On real estate transactions, the average credit score is 780. Now that being said, you can get VA loans for as low as 500. 53% of current home sales are sold to millennials. The average down payment is $20,000. I don't want to scare you with these statistics, but they are the statistics. And I work with first-time home buyers with no money down and no money for closing costs, and I get them homes. So now let's say you're an out-of-town buyer and you're considering coming to this region to look for homes. First thing we're going to want to do is jump on a Zoom call. And if possible, if you're going to be financing your home, I would like to have a lender join us on that first call, because you're going to have questions that I can't answer or that I have no business answering. The market is changing so fast in the lending industry that I hate to say much of anything. If you need to sell your home and you're from out of town, I can offer you a referral to an awesome agent if your home is outside of my service area. And simultaneous closings are still possible, but these take seasoned agents that are working together to make this happen. I also have strategies for non-contingent offers when you have a home that you need to sell. I have 10 or more specific strategies to make this happen. Okay, folks, this wraps up this video on the Portland, Oregon cost of living comparison. Hey, thanks for hanging for the whole video. Remember, if you want to find that perfect area that you're thinking about living in, or just want to see, in order to do that, you're going to have to give me a call, or shoot me a text, send me an email, or even send me that carrier pigeon. However you want to get a hold of me, just know that I have your back when moving to the Portland, Vancouver area. And until the next video, I'll catch you later.